Hi, I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. A special thank you to my patrons, Wild Rose, Lauren Chris, That British Unicorn, Jam Beans, Debbie Elliott, and D. Higgins. This is actually going to be a two-parter. Originally, what I had wanted to do was I wanted to cover Chantel in a yearly perspective. I'd wanted to look at her year basically in a capsule and what I thought was going to happen moving forward. But when I started looking at her actual timeline, I realized Chantel's cycles are a lot more fixed than I think Amber's are. And she's got cycles within cycles. And this year perfectly encapsulated that, I thought. So I decided that I would just look at her year basically from the point of view of the videos that she had done towards the end of last year. So she'd done two videos at the end of 2019/beginning of 2020 that I thought were very important to look at. So there is the video that she titled Sharing Some Thoughts, and then the video that followed immediately after, which is I think it's called like a disappointing New Year's vlog. And both of those, I think, are very emblematic of where she was then, but also where she kind of is now and what it says about her. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to react to those two videos. But rather than combining them into one video, I'm going to split them up into two just so it's a little bit easier for me to essentially edit. So you're going to get one video today, one video tomorrow. Both of them will be shorter than my usual hour-long documentaries. With that being said, I have a lot to say, so let's get into it.
Hey guys, so I don't even know where to start with this video. I just wanted to talk in front of my new mukbang background a bit about how I'm feeling and just be completely real with you guys. Just speak my thoughts because, man, yesterday I just hit a really bad depression moment, and I wanted to turn on the camera, kind of document how I'm feeling, and I was feeling alone. I know I live with BB. I feel like he doesn't really understand mental illness.
So here's the thing. BB doesn't understand. If you've never had a substance abuse issue, and by substance I mean anything, right? You could be addicted to food, you could be addicted to shopping, and there's the traditional stuff that you think of, so drugs, alcohol, and the like. But if you've never had an addiction, if you've never had issues moderating your behavior in regards to certain substances, then you're not going to understand. You're not going to understand the sort of warped thinking that can occur around it. You won't understand the sort of guilt and pressure that you feel. And if BB's never experienced that, he just won't be able to relate. But that's also why we, as in the Hater Nation, talks about it, right? I can relate to Chantel in a way that BB might not be able to. I myself have issues with food. That's why I feel like I can talk about her and offer my insight. Because when I look at her, I see the patterns of behavior that she displays and I say, oh, that's a thing that I've done. Oh, that's a thing that I've felt. Oh, that's a thing that I've noticed. And I've gone to therapy and I've dealt with some of these issues, and therefore I feel like, okay, I can actually offer a perspective on here that Chantel doesn't yet have. She hasn't yet addressed all of her issues. She hasn't yet talked to a therapist in any kind of detail. She hasn't yet started working with it. And more importantly, there's probably people in her audience and in mine who are also in that same position where they haven't yet, gotten to talk about those issues in a professional setting. And it could be for a variety of reasons. I'm not saying that people are choosing not to do it. It could just be because you can't afford it, which honestly, I've also been in that position. So I can understand. And that's why I talk about it. That's why a lot of the other reactors are obese themselves, or people who've had weight struggles themselves. What is the point of somebody who's always been thin and who's really fit now coming onto the channel and saying, well, this is what she should do differently? They've never suffered with an eating addiction. They don't know what it's like to overcome something like that. Their advice, while perfectly useful and perfectly correct, might not be something that is applicable in her situation because they don't have that lived experience. That's why we talk about it. I really wish she would watch this video and she would get a better perspective of why we, the Hater Nation, talk about her.
My food addiction, which I deny having a lot of the time, or I feel like I can control, just keeps winning and winning. And a big part of me just doesn't care sometimes. But on top of that, I'm going through is not knowing how to get help for it.
So she's talked about something in a similar vein in her most recent video, which as of recording this is her eating off track video that she just did. And she talks about how, you know, there is a part of her that is just like, fuck it. I don't care about getting better. I don't care if I recover. I just want to eat and continue the behaviors that I display. And that is 100%, like she said, it's her addiction speaking. It is that negative behavior speaking. It's that part of her that just wants to indulge in these negative thoughts and these negative consequences that she's having and just be like, it's fine. I don't really care about living anyway. When in reality, I don't think that's true at all. I think she really does want to live a happy, healthy, normal life. I just don't think she knows how. And this is what I mean about her having cycles within cycles. It's almost to a year that we're seeing her repeat the same sort of behavior again. And it's really sad. It genuinely is very like sad for me to look at this woman who, what I said this before, she's not that far away from my own age, right? And I look at Chantal, I look at just the way that her body is deteriorating, at the way that she's suffering, a lot of which is because of her weight. And I see the cycle that she's trapped in. I see the fact that she was in the exact same spot last year emotionally and in a better spot physically, and has changed nothing and done nothing in this entire year. And it's heartbreaking.
I'm being seen by a psychiatrist at the Center for Eating Disorders. This psychiatrist specializes in eating disorders, and I'm not blaming anybody for this. I'm just going to share what my experience is trying to get help. All of these centers for eating disorders here in my city seem to focus around bulimia and anorexia. That's what they mention on their website, the dangers of it. It seems like overeating and food addiction is not recognized in the medical society officially. Obesity is, but obesity seems to be an eating disorder, unlike anorexia and bulimia. It seems to be more that the onus is more on the individual to change, and it's not seen as something that needs medical intervention in the same way as bulimia and anorexia, and that's frustrating.
Okay, she has a lot of essentially animosity towards the Canadian healthcare system for apparently not providing her with as much support as like somebody who has anorexia or bulimia suffers. People who suffer with anorexia or bulimia are offered. And that may be true. But the reason for that is while obesity might be more deadly in the long run, anorexia and bulimia tend to be a lot more chronic in their deadliness. They tend to be a lot more acute in their deadliness. There is a very high risk of dying from malnutrition, from just massive organ system failure when you're very, very, very anorexic. It's a really big issue. There have been scores of supermodels in particular who have suffered from this, amongst other things, I'm sure. It's not a particularly healthy lifestyle, but she seems to believe that the two are equal. They are not. They're two very different conditions, and they have very different treatments. People who suffer with anorexia and bulimia need different intensive therapy than somebody who suffers with an eating disorder and binge eating disorder. I said this in my live with DCMediaGirl as well, but approximately 80% of people who have a binge eating disorder and get therapy for it, get like help for it, recover from a binge eating disorder. So it's a very high percentage of people who show remarkable strides forward. With anorexia and bulimia, the treatment isn't the same. You can't see somebody on a semi-regular basis in an out treatment position and still expect to see outcomes. For some of them, they need to be admitted and hospitalized and given IV fluids to keep them alive.
Because there is of course bariatric surgery, but they kind of contradict themselves, because they say without, you need to address the issues, the emotional issues, whatever the case may be, for your disorder with food before, the surgery is effective. It's not a cure-all. And it's like, okay, but therapy is not provided. It's very expensive. It's not provided for people with obesity-related eating disorders. And that's frustrating for me, and I feel left out, because even at the Center for Eating Disorders, when I go in there for my appointment, I see a big sign that says outpatient CBT therapy in room whatever. And then when I ask my psychiatrist about it, he just kind of shrugs it off and says, no, that's not for you. You'll need to pay for, there's therapy, but you'll need to pay for it.
When it comes to weight loss surgery, without having the required mental strength, without having the mental healing down pat before you go in for weight loss surgery, depending on the type of surgery you have, of course, it can kill you. These surgeries are no joke. You are permanently altering a part of your body. And say if they put a band in and you overeat because of emotional distress, you can end up bursting one of those and you can end up having severe complications. So of course they're not going to give it to somebody who could potentially face negative consequences because they have uncontrolled emotional eating problems. No one is going to approve you for bariatric surgery until you have the mental component down pat. Because the consequences of engaging in this sort of behavior post-surgery are significantly more severe. So yes, they are expensive. I will not lie about that. Even in Canada, there are some, depending on what your particular case is, therapy can be expensive. But like I said, there is, depends on your case. There are some forms of psychiatric care that are available to people living in Quebec. I looked it up. There was actually a law passed towards the end of, I want to say 2018, where you can get psychiatric help. So she does have some help available to her, maybe not as much as she would like. But say that the doctor doesn't have as much availability as she would like. She wants to see somebody else twice a week. Well, I looked it up, and approximately it's going to cost her between $150 and $250 per hour for a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist, about $100 for a therapist, and between $65 to $100 for a counselor. So depending on what level of help you feel comfortable receiving, you could pay for it out of pocket. I know Chantal does okay. I mean, she just talked about buying a PS5. God, I'm old. Considered buying a PS5. She spends so much money. She said she spent up to $1,000 on just clothes for one toilet haul. So she knows she has that kind of money. If she was conservative in other areas of her life, she could easily put it back into therapy. She chooses not to, and that's on her. Left out of what? Exactly. Those are not services meant for your type of eating disorder. You want services meant for a different eating disorder because you feel like they're being treated to something that you are not being treated to. They're not the same thing. You're not the same people. It's the same way that you compare yourself to thinner mukbangers or thinner people on the internet and say, well, why can they just eat on camera and be fine? They're not you. They're not in your position. They're not in your body. They're not in your precarious physical health. It's a completely different thing. Those are just not services meant for you. And you being petulant about it doesn't change that.
And I just feel like alone again.
So you feel alone because the therapist that you spoke to, which is provided to you by the Canadian healthcare system, told you that the additional therapy that you're asking for is not available to you because you don't suffer from anorexia and bulimia. And you're saying all of this to your audience of 80,000 people. I want you to listen to what I just said back and tell me if you spot where I have the issue.
It's not that I can't pay for therapy. I mean, I don't make a ton of money off of YouTube. And I know I spend pretty much a lot of what I've been making, I spend back on food, which if I save on food, sure, maybe I could, yes. But it's just the principle. It's like, why is mental health care not seen as important as regular medical health care? In Canada, we have socialized healthcare, which I'm very grateful for. You can say what you want about it. It's been wonderful for me. I don't have to pay for surgeries. I don't have to pay for emergency visits. I don't have to pay for a lot of things and go into more debt for that, which I believe is a basic human right, in my opinion. And so is mental health. I think mental health needs a big improvement. And I think that some kind of therapy should be included in that for people's well-being. I think it would save like the country a lot of money in the long run, because a lot of these issues with food that they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on surgeries for is an emotional, mental thing. And you know, I know that I need that help. So yeah, I mean, it's just these little frustration things. I just feel like, you know what I mean? Like I'm kind of alone in this.
This is a very disingenuous thing for her to say, because there is a lot of help available to her. She just said that she spoke to her therapist, and her therapist said that, you know, that additional therapy is not available to her. So that means that she has a therapist. She has a doctor. She has an emergency room that she's frequently availed herself to. She's got emergency psychiatric care to which she has also availed herself to when she couldn't stop eating cheese, where she later mocked another patient who was there. So she has all of these services at her disposal. She has all of that, and it's still not enough because there's some people who have more. I don't understand that way of thinking. There's a ton of other people out there who have a lot more money available to them, who are doing less well than I am, mentally speaking, because they are not choosing to use the services that they have at their disposal. You are not even making use of the services you have. And crying about the additional services that you are not receiving will not fix the fact that you are not even making the full use of the services that you currently have. What's the point in having more services if you won't use those either? But you do have help. You have a therapist. You have someone to talk to, someone who can help guide you through this process. The only thing that you don't get is inpatient treatment. And that's because that's involuntary. That's why she wants it. She wants in treatment because she thinks that if they can force her to go on a diet and only have this available, like perfect lab conditions where there's no junk food available, where she doesn't have an option of leaving, where she doesn't have access to her money, they can force her to lose all this weight. Then she can come out the other side like looking like a supermodel and then go on with her life eating and doing whatever she wants. She wants all of the benefits without any of the hard work that would be required to get there. And the way that she sees it happening is either with bariatric surgery, which she will not get approved for, or inpatient, which she will not get approved for, right? But it's harder to rail against bariatric surgery because there's a really huge risk of her potentially dying on the table, which is why they won't recommend it to her. But when it comes to inpatient, the way she sees it is like, well, they're getting it. Why can't I get it? What's the harm? There is a harm. They have limited resources. Canada has a significant shortage of doctors. So no, they're not going to just give inpatient to every person who wants it. They're going to give it to the people for whom it's the most important. And Chantal whining about it doesn't make it the most important for her.
And on top of all that, don't feel like I've fully processed my emotions since my surgery. You know, I've always said, well, I don't want children, or I wasn't sure, and it's just like, and then I was feeling extra down, and then like, you know, would see kids on the TV or people with a family, and I started crying, like, without having any control over it. And, you know, I told BB, I said, I remember looking up emotions of post-hysterectomy, and they were talking about grieving. You need time to grieve. And I just never thought of that. And I was like, I'm grieving. I feel whenever you lose somebody, for example, you grieve someone, it's that feeling of finality. It's final. You can't go back. There's nothing you can do about it. It's gone forever. That kind of feeling too. Or they're gone forever. But this is, I guess, in my case, my sexual organs. They're gone forever. There's nothing I can do about it anymore. And that finality just, I guess, and, you know, I know that you can adopt and everything like that. But it's just, it's a grieving process, I guess, is what I'm saying. And I felt that yesterday more than I've ever felt since my surgery.
I get it. She didn't want kids, but that doesn't mean that having the option taken away from her doesn't suck anyway. I'm sorry. That really is terrible. And I'm sorry that she had to go through that. She will grieve for it, despite what anybody else may say. This is a great thing to bring up with your therapist. YouTube, these videos, we are not your therapist. We don't know you personally, Chantel. We really don't. We can be here to cheerlead you on so that you don't feel alone, but we cannot provide you with the guidance that you need. Not even people in your life can really provide you with the guidance that you need. This is genuinely a case of therapy. Go to your therapist, your psychiatrist, the one you just said you had, and tell them how you're feeling and ask them what you should do to feel better.
I did film a McDonald's mukbang, and then I saw the poll about just the amount of people who prefer weight loss material over the mukbangs is just staggering.
McDonald's is a really big trigger fruit for her. It always has been. I really, really wish she would recognize that and honestly just cold turkey quit eating McDonald's altogether. Like, nothing good comes from her going to McDonald's.
I always go back to mukbangs because I feel like I see all these other people doing mukbangs, and
please stop watching mukbangs. Please. Just quit watching them altogether. Quit watching all food content. Don't watch the Food Network. Don't watch cooking channels. Don't watch anything. Just anything food related. Cut it out. Get better. And then maybe you can start integrating some of that back into your life on the guidance of your doctor. But for now, just cut it out. Don't watch it anymore because obviously it triggers you.
A lot of them probably don't have the same issues with food that I do. And if I had never shared that part of my life with you guys, it probably wouldn't be the same. But I kind of feel like a fool when I go back and edit my video, like my McDonald's one, which I decided I'm not going to upload. Because I feel like a fool with so many people knowing what I'm really going through and sitting there like stuffing my face with McDonald's with mayo all over my face. And I just feel like I've said this before. So it's like, I know it's going to seem like rerun for you guys, but I feel like I need to go through this cycle until it finally fully sinks in for me, I guess. I don't know. But it always comes back to this feeling of guilt and just like, because a part of me knows what I'm doing is wrong. And I think
I want you guys to pay special attention to her phrasing right there. She doesn't say that she feels bad about having these issues and doing the mukbangs. She feels bad about us knowing that she has issues when she does the mukbangs. There's a really big difference there. The only thing that Chantel feels upset about really is the fact that she gets crap for her behavior. Not that she has this behavior. There's a very big distinction between the two. And she still has that thinking to this day, right? She doesn't really feel bad about what she does. She doesn't, a lot of times for her, it's just a matter of the fact that she got flack for it, which is why she feels bad, which is why she was so quick to issue that disingenuous apology to Charlie after the whole Charlie Cole situation, and why she was so quick to take it back, because she didn't mean anything. This is the biggest thing that I want channels who say that, well, nobody would believe Chantel or Amber if they issued an apology anyway, that's why they don't do it, to understand. It is not about apologizing so that I will, quote unquote, forgive her. It is about them understanding that they did something wrong, acknowledging that they've done something wrong, and then moving forward from that and doing better in the future. Me forgiving them is irrelevant. If you yourself recognize that you've done something wrong, then you should owe it and apologize for it. You are not owed an apology. Sorry, you are not owed an acceptance of your apology from anybody. No one is going to forgive you if they don't want to. No one needs to forgive you if they don't want to. That is their prerogative. You messed up and you need to own the consequences of messing up. And sometimes that means that you don't get a do-over, right? And this is the problem that Chantel has. She doesn't understand. This is why she feels often that she's persecuted against, where we get mad at her for stuff, that we're trying to censor her. We're not trying to censor you. Criticism of you is not the same as censorship of you. You can say whatever you want and we can say whatever we want, right? Us being critical of you doesn't mean that you should just stop saying whatever you want. Just like you being critical of us doesn't mean that we should stop saying whatever we want. That's why she has to tweet and delete, her version of tweet and delete, which is rage on the community tab post and then immediately expunge all the evidence. That's why she does these things. Because it's not that she's ever truly sorry or contemplative about her actions. She's only sorry and contemplative about the fact that she's going to get flack from her actions, that she's going to have to explain her actions, that people think negatively of her because of her actions. She's never actually sorry about what she did. All that matters to her is the perception from other people on the internet, because they're the only people she has in her life right now.
I feel like a lot of people do care about me. I don't feel like it's just trolls wanting the weight loss. I don't feel like people who want to see me do well are trolls. So it kind of just really struck a heart chord knowing that so many people want to see me do something more meaningful towards my well-being.
Yes. Thank you for admitting that. Not all of us are trolls. Some of us, I'm sure, are trolls. Some of the people in her comments, I'm sure, are trolls. Some of the people who leave her dislikes are trolls. But there's a lot of people on here who just want the best for her. And they might be fed up and angry at her, but that doesn't mean that they want to see her die or for anything negative to happen to her.
And I know how, ridiculous it looks to say these things to you guys in videos that I then hide and go back to doing mukbangs because it's just easier. You know, it's easy content, it's easy money, it's easy because I don't have to address anything or be accountable for anything. But at the same time, I feel there's always a part of me that just feels bad doing unhealthy mukbangs. I don't see anything wrong with me sharing a healthy dinner when I'm that I'm on track with as part of my plan.
She's already backpedaling. She said that she won't be doing any more of these, food related videos. She won't be dealing with this anymore. And then immediately she says, but I'll still do cook with me's and healthy meals that I'm going to be eating anyway. And she just said that they're lazy, easy content. So she's still planning on producing the lazy, easy content for the lazy, easy money, right? She's just going to make them healthier. It still will negatively impact her mentally, though. These are not things that she's shown that she can handle emotionally, because she's going to eat something grossly and there's going to be 8 people in her comments saying, oh God, that looks absolutely disgusting, and it's going to trigger her negatively, and the way she soothes her emotions is by eating more. It's still going to do bad things for her. And you can try and change the entire rest of the world, but it's significantly easier to just modify your behavior to protect yourself. And I don't know why she won't do that. It's not easier to expect that other people will change. You're just setting yourself up for failure if you try that.
I definitely have to clean out my apartment of all triggers, because for me with mukbangs, I really, really, really just want to be normal and be I can eat this McDonald's and then go about my life. But no, it's not like that for me. I realize now that I can't have a bit of something that is a trigger for me. So it's going to have to be food that's not, you know? So first things first, I need to clean up my place of all trigger food. Delete all my apps that are like Uber Eats and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm just letting you know what's going through my mind and what I'm going to be doing. My memory is going to run out, so I don't want to talk too much more about it. But I appreciate those of you who are still here and watching me. And I apologize if I've ever been defensive and just stubborn. I'm really going to really try really hard to work on my character in the new year. Well, just now in general too. But thank you for watching me and caring about my life. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
She's realizing this now 1 year ago, basically, right? She in her timeline, she realized this 1 year ago. And look where she is in today's timeline. It's sad. This video is basically everything that Chantel is currently feeling. This video exemplifies every negative trait and every negative thought pattern that she has, from starting with I won't do it to, well, maybe just healthy mukbangs, right? And I don't have enough help available to me, and being mad and lashing out at everybody else, but taking the criticism onto yourself that, hey, maybe you're just not availing yourself to the services as well as you should be. This is everything that she still does now. She has the same sadness, the same depression, the same lack of just mobility in her life, not mobility in her limbs. Everything. This is the larger cycle, and she has all of the smaller cycles of diet and falling off inside of it. It's quite disheartening, and it's quite upsetting to see. So that will be it for this video. Like I said, this is the first half. The second half of it will be posted tomorrow. In that, I'm going to be discussing her actual New Year's, and I'm going to talk about what I think that video shows about what she was like then and how applicable it is to how she's like today. I hope this video was entertaining. I hope it wasn't too sad. I think I was a little bit more upset with her than I regularly am, but she's concerning me a little bit, and she's genuinely being just really, she's just being really, really weird. In the past video that she did, she displayed some really terrible behavioral patterns that speak so ill of her just mental space right now. And she displays those same sorts of behaviors in this video. And I really wanted you guys to see it. I want to draw a clear line between that video and this one so that people see. It doesn't really matter how much time has passed. It doesn't really matter how much negative health consequences she's faced. Chantel is still fundamentally the same as she's always been. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you hated this video, you can give me a thumbs down. That's totally okay. I respect everybody's decision here. Leave me a comment down below if there's something you'd like me to really, really know. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the notification bell down below. And hit all if you want to know when I upload any video right away. If you want to follow me on social media, all of those links are down below as well. I've got Instagram where I've got all my food stuff and my life stuff, but don't really have a life stuff right now, so it's just food. I've got Twitter where I'm a little bit toxic and a little bit petty, but I'm also kind of entertaining. So if you want to interact with me between uploads, that's where you can do it. I've got Patreon. Think of Patreon as the tip jar for the internet. So if you like the job that I'm doing and you'd like me to continue and you want to toss a few coins in my direction, that's where you can do it. And if you don't like Patreon for some reason or want to consider another avenue to support me, hey, maybe become a community member. We're never getting that post, I think. We're never ever going to get that poll where I ask you guys which name you guys like best. I'm just going to forget forever. That's just what's going to happen, I think. And, once more, there's no, obligation. Please don't feel stressed about it. Just liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all of those things also really, really help. So, maybe you could do that. I know, I checked. Something like 45% of you are not actually subscribed to my video. So, subscribe, you. Anyway, I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. Peace.